In 1957, a mason in the suburbs of Chicago finished waterproofing a basement foundation. He mixed Portland cement with sand, troweled 2 thick coats onto the exterior walls, let it cure, and brushed on a layer of hot bituminous paste over the top. The materials cost him about $4. That basement is still bone dry today. Now compare that to what happened 3 miles away in 2019. A homeowner in the same suburb paid a waterproofing contractor $14,000 to install an interior drainage system, a sump pump, and a battery backup. The house was built in 1972. And the reason that basement was leaking in the first place is because the builder never waterproofed the foundation at all. He damp-proofed it. And those are 2 very different things. This is the story of how the American construction industry abandoned a permanent, dirt-cheap waterproofing method and replaced it with something that was always designed to fail, and how that decision created one of the most profitable home repair industries in the country. To understand what happened, you need to know what foundation waterproofing actually looked like before the 1960s. Go back to any home built between roughly 1920 and 1955. And the standard practice was a method called parging with a bituminous seal. The process was simple. After the foundation walls were poured, or the concrete blocks were laid, a mason would mix Portland cement with coarse sand at about a 1:3 ratio. He would trowel that mixture directly onto the exterior foundation walls in 2 coats, each about 3/8 of an inch thick. The first coat went on rough. The second coat was smoothed and beveled at the top to create a wash that directed water downward, and thickened at the bottom to form a cove where the wall met the footing. Once the parging cured, the mason or a laborer would brush or trowel a thick layer of hot coal tar or asphalt-based bitumen over the entire surface. This bituminous coating was sticky, pitch black, and completely impervious to water. It bonded to the parging underneath and created a continuous waterproof shell around the entire below-grade portion of the foundation. The materials for this entire process cost almost nothing. A bag of Portland cement, some sand, and a bucket of bituminous paste. Even adjusted for inflation, the total material cost for an average foundation was in the range of $4 to $8. The labor took a few hours, and the result lasted for decades. In many cases, it lasted the entire life of the structure. The reason it works so well comes down to basic physics. The parging coat sealed every pore, void, and imperfection in the masonry surface. Concrete blocks especially have a structure full of tiny pathways that water can travel through. The thick cement parging eliminated those pathways entirely. Then the bituminous layer on top provided a second barrier that was chemically hydrophobic, meaning water could not bond to it or pass through it, even under significant pressure from saturated soil. Together, these 2 layers created what engineers call a positive side waterproofing system. The water was stopped on the outside of the wall before it ever had a chance to reach the interior. And because both materials were rigid but slightly flexible, they could handle the normal expansion and contraction that concrete goes through during freeze-thaw cycles without cracking or delaminating. If you have ever been inside the basement of a well-built home from the 1940s, you already know what this looks like in practice. The walls are dry. There is no efflorescence, no staining, no musty smell. The system just works. So what changed? After World War II, America needed housing. Fast. Millions of returning veterans and their growing families created demand that the construction industry had never seen before. Developers like William Levitt figured out how to build entire neighborhoods on an assembly line model. Levittown on Long Island broke ground in 1947, and by 1951, over 17,000 homes had been completed. The entire American suburb was being invented in real time, and the pressure to build faster and cheaper was enormous. The bottleneck was skilled labor. A mason who could properly parge a foundation and apply a bituminous seal was a tradesman. It took time to do the work right. 2 coats of parging with curing time in between, followed by a careful application of hot tar or asphalt. On a production schedule where builders needed to pour a foundation, waterproof it, backfill it, and frame the house in the same week, that kind of craftsmanship was too slow. So the industry found a shortcut. Instead of 2 coats of hand-troweled parging plus a thick bituminous seal, builders started using a single spray-applied coat of asphalt emulsion. A worker with a sprayer could coat an entire foundation in 15 or 20 minutes. The material was thin, often barely thicker than a coat of paint. It dried quickly, and it was cheap. This spray-on coating became known in the industry as damp proofing. And here is the critical distinction that most homeowners never learn. Damp proofing is not waterproofing. Damp proofing is designed to resist moisture vapor. That is it. Light humidity from soil contact. It was never engineered to stop liquid water under hydrostatic pressure, which is what happens when rain saturates the soil around your foundation and gravity pushes that water against your basement walls. But building codes in most jurisdictions only require damp proofing for standard residential construction. Waterproofing was only mandated in areas with known high water tables. So builders did exactly what the code required, and nothing more. They sprayed on a thin coat of asphalt, backfilled the foundation, and moved on to the next house. The consequences took years to show up. That thin asphalt coating becomes brittle over time. It cracks, it peels. Soil settlement creates voids. Tree roots push against it. And within 10 to 20 years, many of those foundations were letting water in. Not immediately, and not dramatically, just slow seepage, damp walls, musty smells, mold growing behind finished drywall that nobody can see. By the 1980s and 1990s, the first generation of post-war tract homes was reaching the age where those damp-proofing coatings were failing in large numbers. And that created a market opportunity that an entire industry was built to exploit. The basement waterproofing industry in the United States is now worth billions of dollars annually. Companies like Basement Systems, which operates through a network of over 350 dealers across the country, have built their entire business model around fixing a problem that proper construction would have prevented in the first place. The average interior waterproofing job, which typically involves cutting a channel around the interior perimeter of the basement floor, installing drainage piping, and adding a sump pump, costs between $8,000 and $15,000. Exterior solutions are even more expensive. Excavating around a foundation to apply a modern waterproofing membrane can run $20,000 or more, once you factor in the equipment, labor, landscaping, restoration, and the membrane itself. And here is what makes this truly frustrating. The original method, the parging and bituminous seal that masons used for decades, would have prevented almost all of these problems for a fraction of the cost. The materials for a modern version of this system, using Portland cement, sand, and a polymer-modified asphalt coating, still cost under $50 for an average residential foundation. The labor takes a day or two, and the result is a positive-side waterproof barrier that will last for the life of the structure. You cannot install it from inside the basement. You need access to the exterior foundation walls, which means either doing it during new construction or excavating to expose the walls on an existing home. But the point is that this should have been standard practice all along. It was standard practice for decades, until speed and profit margins pushed it aside. Some contractors still use this method today, particularly in restoration work on older homes. The process has been updated slightly. Modern polymer-modified asphalt coatings are more flexible and durable than the old hot-applied coal tar. Fiber-reinforced cement coatings can replace traditional parging. But the fundamental principle is identical to what that mason in 1957 was doing. Seal the surface, block the water, protect the structure. The irony is that the construction industry knows this works. Commercial and institutional buildings regularly spec full exterior waterproofing systems because the stakes are too high to cut corners. It is residential construction where homeowners bear the long-term cost of failure that continues to rely on minimum code damp proofing. If you are building a new home or doing a major renovation that exposes your foundation walls, you have a window of opportunity that will not come again without significant expense. A thick parging coat and a quality bituminous membrane applied to the exterior is the closest thing to a permanent fix that exists in construction. It is the same method your great-grandparents' house used, and it costs less than a nice dinner out. If you found this useful, subscribe. I cover the forgotten building methods that modern construction left behind.